This is The Roxanne Show. Get ready. It's time to rise. But I'm so excited. I want to play this. To you.
I always wanted to be an actress, but I didn't think it was a possibility. So
How did you, what was that feeling? How did you know that? Because
I would just watch TV and like movies and want to be doing what they were doing. I would feel this like pull and in my head, I would say, I want to do that. I want to be that person.
Would you actually, would you visualize it?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's so funny. I even remember, and I don't know if it will happen, but I just remember like all the things happening to me as a child. And I remember saying to myself, I'm going to write a book about this someday.
I love that.
I was like, this is pretty wild what's happening to me. You know, I don't know if I ever will, but yeah, I remember thinking like there was a part of me that could remove myself from myself and be observing myself and observing the people around me. And I remember thinking to myself, there's a better way, a better life out there.
My goodness. My goodness. Wow. Wow.
I know. I'm like playing this back, earlier too, and other parts of the talk that we had several years ago now. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. I'm like, don't cry, girl. You're going to be on camera. You're going to all puffy.
Exactly.
But I love that you're like, in that moment, I don't know if I'm going to do it. And then here we are.
Oh my God. I know. It's so crazy.
Let us begin. I mean, this is so special. I'm just celebrating you. I mean, I've been celebrating you knowing, that you did this and every day up to this
You've
point.
been celebrating me since the day I met you.
I literally,
It's been like 10 years ago. So, yeah.
Well, you're the real thing. Truly. And I will tell you, okay, you're my girl. I'm going to support you reading your book. It's like there's already love for the book, but honestly, I love your book. And I think, for me especially, you really hit my heart because there's so much commonality and connection. I mean, I don't come from West Bronx, but even though I did live in New York, in the city for several years of my life.
Yeah.
But it's the ultimate story of the underdog, and that's been my story, and I actually honor that. And I love that. So I want to start with, well, we're already started. I want to start first by just congratulating you.
Thank you.
And how does it feel?
It's surreal. It's I still can't believe it, and I, when I was writing the book and now I've read the book just to like, kind of after I stopped writing for a while and was off to the publishers and printers, I decided to pick it up again and I had a little bit more perspective and just reading it going, oh, wow, that was me back then and all the things that I've gone through. And what was wonderful about writing the book and going back in time was that it showed me how far I had come because I can be really hard on myself and always feeling like it's almost like I have this psychological carrot on the end of a stick where I'm always chasing the carrot, trying to reach it, but I never get there because why? I keep moving the stick. I keep getting it out of my reach, and never kind of satisfy, it's almost like a slave driver to myself. So I've been working really hard on that to love myself and to be grateful when cool things that I've done happen, like this book. And really the book, I wrote it because I wanted to share those struggles. I wanted to share, struggles that I've had in the past and how I've overcome and where I've gotten to now so that to hopefully inspire others to see that for themselves too.
It's so real. This is, one of my favorite parts about it is like, it's very palpable. First of all, the book is so easily digestible, which I think is really important. It's something that anybody can read and just kind of go through pretty swiftly, but the substance is nutrient dense, right? So it doesn't need to be this whole big thing. It's like every part of your journey that you extracted and pointed out in the book makes somebody think about their own life and their own journey. And again, in my life, like there were so many moments where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel you, girl. You know, one of the things that I think is so important to bring out is that you you always, well, in your journey, you decided that you're going to choose yourself before society or anybody else was choosing you. And especially as an underdog, like that's a real decision you have to make because nobody's really choosing you as the underdog, right?
No, right, exactly. And I guess for me, I always saw, I would play things out and see how will they play out in my life. And if I don't do something about this, like the feeling that I had in me to be an actor, to want to be an actor, even though I knew the strikes were against me, the odds were against me, the chances of me being a successful working actor were so slim. And then on top of that, add that I'm Latina, add that I'm brown, add that I'm from the Bronx, add that I grew up in low economic conditions, add that I didn't have the greatest education, like so many things that I thought were strikes against me. I could have chosen to go, well, I can't because I'm Latina and I'm from the Bronx and woe is me. I guess this existence that I'm living now is just going to be all that I can do.
Yeah.
Or I can go, well, wait a minute. What if I chose differently? How would that play out? I don't know necessarily, but I know if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to keep getting the same things.
Yeah.
But if I dance a different dance step, well, let's see where that'll lead. And it's always has led me to great things. Always.
Despite the challenges.
Despite my fears.
Despite your fears.
In spite of my fears.
Yeah. And those fears are gnarly, right? They just like
kick your ass every freaking day. I'm like, oh, it's you again? Jesus, I didn't get rid of you yet? Oh my God.
I'm watering, tearing.
Here we go again. All right, listen, what did I tell you? I got this. Leave me alone. I'm trying to be successful here. Oh my God.
Oh, it's so true. And it's so special. I think it's so important. You know, you're established. I mean, you have done so much already in your career and you still, you know, where you are now to this day, you're someone who says, but I still have to fight the fear. I still have to beat the inner critic, the inner bullying. And I think that's such an important statement because I don't know. I mean, what do you think about it? Do you think it ever goes away?
I don't think it ever goes away, unfortunately. I wish we could make it go away. I think there's a part of us that wants to believe that we can make it go away. And that when we see other people who seem successful, especially if we see celebrities and we see these like A-list actors or these uber rich people, and you think, oh, they must be so happy because it looks like a media campaign, it looks like a magazine glossy ad, and they always look so pretty and so nice, and the perfect lighting and the beautiful house and the clothes and all this, and it's all freaking BS, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, it's not true because those people are battling with fears, insecurities, and all kinds of stuff as well. It's just they're really good at hiding it.
Yeah.
And hiding it from themselves is even worse. That is even worse when you hide it from yourself. Like, I really believe that it's important to own your shit. And that's one of my the chapters in my, it's like, you need to own your shit and you need to be responsible for you, for your own mental state, for the choices that you're making in your life, for your financial position, whatever is going on. Even if people are doing things wrong to you, you have to take responsibility and decide, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You just have to.
Well, I think what's so cool is, in your book, you're sharing these stories. What I am receiving as I'm taking in the story is this kind of undertone of, I'm watching your self-awareness expand,
Yes.
but always intact. I want to actually talk about that first, because then there's the integrity piece that also starts to really get louder, and then there's self-love, and this is like when you're fighting for yourself, like literally.
Yes, literally. Yes.
But the self-awareness piece, I think, is an important place to start, because truly, I really believe that number one, it's the most important agent for growth. Like it's first of all, one of the, if not the strongest attributes in emotional intelligence. Without self-awareness, where do you go? Like, who are you? What are you doing? So I feel like that was something that was really pronounced within you.
I think since I was a little girl.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, sort of like I said in on our first podcast, was that there was a part of me that could just pull focus, like a camera, just pull back and reveal. So, like, if these cameras right now that are recording us were to pull back, they'd see more details. They'd see the lights that are, and they'd see the mics, and they'd see more. And so when I was little, I had this, I don't know why, but I would just kind of pull out and just look at everything playing out and watch the adults in my life making these horrible choices and putting me in positions that were not safe. And I could always do that. And so I think I lost myself a little in my teenage years because I wasn't aware of what I was doing. But then another part of me, that part of me that kind of has this awareness, go, hello, what are we doing here? This isn't good. The one that there's this part of me that always looks out for me.
Would you call that your highest self, or what?
I would call that my soul, my spirit, my highest self, all of the above. It's the wise one in me, the one that knows the answers and will never steer me wrong, will always take care of me. And it's sometimes it gets overruled by all these other little parts that they're trying their best to take care of you, but they really don't know what they're doing, because I believe that they were formed when you were little at different ages. So they're these young little kids trying to run the ship, and then there's your wiser self who is the adult in the house.
Yeah. It makes me think of your Pitbull moment.
Yes.
Right. Because that was it felt like a very pinnacle moment where you were like, all right, I'm going to listen to you, highest self. Because the wrong that I'm feeling inside now by the choices that I am making is just too much. Like it's like you didn't feel like yourself, which makes sense, right?
So when I was in a teenager, I had this boyfriend who just was abusive, and I chose to be with him because I thought that was normal. That's what I saw modeled to me when I was growing up. But there was a part of me that just started to feel this injustice about how I was being treated and how I saw my mother treated as I was growing up and how I've seen other women treated. And it just built and built and built over the time with my boyfriend at the time. And he had these pit bulls that you mentioned. And there's an awesome chapter that I wrote talking about this story that really happened, that I literally saved myself from this pit bull. And that was my wiser self.
Yes.
That was the one that was looking out for me, because I cannot say, like, if someone proposed this question, if there's a pit bull growling at you and has you cornered, what do you do? I would never have figured out. I don't know, cry, scream for help. Like, I don't know. And I instead saved myself. So,
which is incredible. I mean, I feel like you have, maybe that was a very dramatic, real life-threatening moment. But in a sense, your journey, I feel like you've been constantly saving yourself.
Yeah, that's true. You know why? And this is a sad thing to say. I've had to, because no one was there, including my parents.
Yeah.
Although they were there for me in some ways, and I, talk about that in the book. But in other ways, they weren't. I mean, they were just trying to survive too, and they're trying to pay the bills and work, and growing up raising me and my sister in adverse conditions. They, were walking around in their lives very unaware of what they were doing.
Yeah.
And thus it put me in a position that wasn't so great. And so I, out of necessity, had to learn how to figure things out and take care of myself to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what a gift. And I think you're right. I mean, I do believe that, everyone's doing the best that they know how to do in that particular moment of their life.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's the whole premise of your book is, our otherness. So what makes us different, and essentially kind of, and the concept of otherness is the difference is you're almost like the outcast or the underdog. You're less than.
Yes, it's like you're not part of the mainstream.
Right.
So, it could be anywhere. It could be someone who is from another country, someone who has an accent, someone who's in a lower economic status, even if they are quote unquote white,
Yeah.
just someone who's deaf maybe, or someone, like whatever that makes a person feel like they're on the outside looking in, that makes you the other. That's how I define it. So
love
not part
it.
of the mainstream.
And that's your strength. I mean, that what you're pointing out, and I do believe that, and I do feel that. I know my own journey, like statistically, I should fail, based off of, the childhood situations.
Yeah. Well, so how I see otherness strengthens us if we allow it to, is it throws hurdles in our way. It throws resistance in our way, and they're very challenging. And for example, I grew up around substance abuse and violence, and those were very challenging times. And I could have turned to substance abuse and violence and been that person, but I didn't. And it was just those challenges, what I thought were strikes against me, when I said, like before, I'm Latina, brown from the Bronx, I might as well give up. No, I'm gonna persevere. I'm gonna push through, just like at the gym, you're pushing that heavy weight. I'm gonna push through, and you're gonna get stronger and stronger and stronger in spite of all these things that are holding you back. And the more you do that, the stronger you get, and you get somewhere, and you can achieve your dreams. And that's what my message is.
Yeah, and it's such an important message, I think, especially, in your journey in the younger years. I mean, we're in such a different time now where, you didn't have the role models, like you said, like you're a Latina from, the Bronx, like you weren't seeing anybody who looked like you or like out there doing kind of the bigger things. And now, we're in a different position. I mean, you are a representation of what is possible.
Yes.
And I think that's really special, Andrea, because there's so many people out there who, are holding this idea about themselves against themselves. Like, it's just not possible for me.
I can't because, X, Y, and Z. And my thing is, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. And then sometimes I still believe it. I fall into believing that voice for a while.
Yeah.
And I get mad.
Well, see, here's another through line about you, which I love and I resonate with. But girl, you are a fighter.
I am a fighter.
You are a fighter. Yeah. And, the introvert, who's been bullied. Like, I see you in the locker room right now. Yes. I'm not going to give the stories away. Yes. But you have been fighting for yourself your entire life.
I have been fighting for myself my entire life. And I like to share my stories with people so that they can be inspired to fight for themselves too. Because what's the alternative?
Right.
I think there's no other way. I think it's really important to show up for yourself in so many ways, with food, health, exploring your mind. Therapy is like one of my most favorite things in the world. I'm so grateful for my therapist. Yeah. I've been working on myself for a really long time. Like, for example, I want to share this. It's not in the book. So when I graduated college, actually, while I was in college, I was in a relationship with a guy, and nice guy and all that. But at some point, I kept doing things to sort of sabotage the relationship, and we'd get into these fights. And he finally goes, you know what, Andrea, you need to go to therapy. I can't keep doing this with you. And I went, you know what? You're right. I'm going to go to therapy. So I started seeing a counselor in college, and she turned out to be awesome. And I explored for the first time with a professional the sexual abuse that I experienced when I was 6 years old. And it was so wonderful for me, and it really started to change my life. So I did that for 2 years in college, and then I was going to leave. And then she goes, I said to her, I said, I still need help, and I'm not going to be able to see you anymore. Can you recommend someone? So she does. And she says, I have two people that I can recommend highly. One is a male, one is a female. Which do you prefer? And I said, oh, definitely the female. So I figured I'd be safer. And she goes, okay, well, your issues are with a Latino male. I really think you should go with the male. He's Latino. And I go, why? And then she goes, because with a female you'll feel safe, and with him you won't, and that's good because you won't be able to get away from it. You're gonna have to deal with it head on. And I trusted her, and I said, okay. And so I saw Dr. Mijan. I love this man so much. I saw Dr. Mijan for 6 years. I had no health insurance. And I said to him, I don't know if I can afford. I was living on my own apartment. I was working part-time and I was pursuing my acting career. But he saw my dedication to the work on myself. And he said, I'm going to give you a discounted rate. So he gave me basically 50% off. And then there were times when I couldn't pay. And he goes, that's okay. You'll pay me eventually. And I go, oh my God, thank you. So over the 6 years, there were times when I couldn't pay him. 4 months would go by and I felt so guilty. And he goes, you'll pay me. And then I would hit an acting job or a modeling job. And as soon as I get the check, I'm writing him a check and I'm like fully paid off. And so that was an investment in myself.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I did that, because I don't think that my life would be as good as it is now had I not done the work on me, on my mental state, on my emotional state, on my childhood trauma. I think that all of that trauma would have been ruling me, and I don't think I would have been as good of a mom as I am. I'm not a perfect mom, and I feel very guilty sometimes about things that I did do or didn't do and all these things. But when I really think about it, I got to give it to myself. And I say, you know what? I am a good mom. My kids are really, really lucky to have me. But it's because I did the work on myself, and I continue to do the work on myself.
Yeah.
Still in therapy, different therapist, and she's badass, rebel therapist. I freaking love her. So grateful.
Well, I think you're always doing all kinds of work on yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, part of our connection, energetically, there's that initial or immediate resonance, but we clicked on so many levels of just interest, and all the interests are self-development interests, taking care of your health and all of that. And it's this whole holistic way of going about yourself and your lifestyle. And I think that's so important, especially when, just period, really, but especially when, you do maybe have a harder journey, like maybe as the underdog or, being the other, you the more that you're doing these investments of self, health, mental health, all kinds of health, like anything that's going to help you to get into a healthier relationship with yourself, so that you can pursue your life from a more empowered, energy and state. I think it's so important. It's essential.
It's essential. And again, what's the alternative?
But I love that bottom line.
Like, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
It's not gonna be as good.
Yeah.
It will not be as good if you don't take care of yourself. It just won't.
Well, see, let's talk about that. When I hear you say that, I hear you saying, I'm just not gonna settle. I'm not. Yeah. Her eyebrows are like,
oh, hell no.
No. Where do you think that came from? Because this is important.
Question. Go ahead. It's a tough question.
Well, especially if you don't have anybody showing you differently. Why are you going to believe, like, what is that even about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess watching TV when I was a kid and watching these people live these incredible lives, I was like, why not me? Why can't I? I want that too. It's not fair.
Right.
And then I grew up and realized that everybody, even people on TV, are just as messed up. But
that was later. But
initially, the driving force was, no, I deserve it too. I have value too. I have something to say. I want to show up and stake my claim as well.
Yeah.
In spite of all my insecurities, I always feel insecure. I struggle with saying these words. I'm going to be straight up honest. I struggle with saying these words that I owned it and I did this and I did that, because to this day I'm still insecure, and I want to share that, because I feel like sometimes people watch podcasts or interviews or whatever, and people seem like they have it so together, and they're like they figured out the answers to life.
Yeah.
And you just got to do it this way and do it that way, and I'm not doing that. I'm saying I have some ideas. They seem to have worked for me.
Yeah.
I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I want people to know that it's okay.
Yeah.
That I don't have it figured out, and I'm still trying, and they don't have it figured out, and that's okay. And they can continue to try and get ahead and figure themselves out. And it's okay. Like, I want to let people off the hook from looking at people who seemingly have it all together.
Yeah.
Don't believe it. They don't have it all together. They might have figured some things out.
Yeah.
And you can maybe get some golden nuggets of wisdom from them and use it and apply it to your life the best way that you can. And then go to someone else and see what else you can learn from other people. And then maybe you can also share wisdom so other people can learn.
Yeah.
You know,
it's so powerful. And I don't think you'd even have the wisdom. You have such rich wisdom. You wouldn't have that if you weren't betting on yourself, if you weren't willing to get messy, to take the fucking punches and to get back up and to keep going forward.
Yeah.
And the wisdom is, I mean, it's everything. I mean, think about, just what it offers you just for yourself, but now how it impacts your children, how it impacts, your community and everyone that you get to come across, all of, everyone who's looking up to you, because there's so many people who do look up to you, and rightfully so. But I love that you share that, because I think more now than ever, when we have social media now, and now everything's like visible and certainly polished and done. And it's like, to share that message, I think is so perfectly timed and important, because it gives people permission to be who the fuck they are and go for it. And what I love too is that, like, look, maybe not everyone's going to see all of your messy moments and your quote unquote failure, if there is even, because I think they're more lessons that set you up to the wins. Maybe they're seeing the highlight reel, the highlight reel and the wins, which I do think is important too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you weaving in the, hey, but don't get it twisted.
Because I was just bawling my eyes out before this interview. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No,
But no, it's true. Like I I have to tell another story.
Please.
So, I was on Jane the Virgin, and Jane the Virgin finished, and a friend of mine wrote this TV pilot called The System, and she wrote it with me in mind. And it was such a good script, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't feel secure in my own, like, intelligence or my own fortitude or anything to be able to see it through or to see something to happen with it. And so I put it on the back burner, and I just kind of sat on it, like in insecurity. And then some months go by, and then I finally shared it with my manager. He read it, and he said he thought it needed rewrites. So then I go, oh, okay. And then it stumped me when he says, oh, it needs rewrites. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to do now. I want to be that person that produces. I want to be that person that directs. Like, I want to be that person. And, and I'm like, but I don't know what to do. And I just feel insecure about myself. So I put it on the back burner. My personal life took over. Some significant changes happened in my life that were very hard. And then comes around 6 months later, and my friend is talking with someone who has a deal with NBC. And I'm like, damn, like, I'm going to miss this opportunity. I could have made this show in some way, but I don't know what to do with it. And I was talking with my guy, Bob, and he goes, you got it. You can do it. You can do it. And he was encouraging me. So I said, finally sent it to Norm, my manager. I said, read it again. I really think it has something. And he reads it again. He goes, Andrea, still need rewrites. And I go, no, it doesn't. Well, yes, maybe it does need rewrites, but I think it's good enough as it is to present and to pitch. in this state. If anything, someone else is going to, want to, and whoever comes on board is going to want to have a creative say anyway. So why show them a polished script? I think it has perfect potential right now. And he goes, okay. And I went, oh, okay. And so then, but this is I'm telling the long version of this story. So I wanted to pitch it to Jenny Erman, who's the creator of Jane the Virgin.
Okay.
And I was so nervous to do it. I literally had a panic attack and cried in my boyfriend's arms for 20 minutes.
Oh, man.
Before I got on the phone and called her. So this is what I'm saying. It's like doing it in spite, right? I had them meetings, even just writing the email, I would love for you to read this, like, it's just like so hard for me to do. So then, you can do it. You got this. Crying. Okay, it's time. I gotta get on the phone with her. I finally call her and I'm like, hi, Andrea Navedo. How are you, Jenny? And then I tell her very awkwardly the story of this pilot. And she goes, okay, send me the script. And I went, all right, thank you so much, Jenny. I hang up. 2 weeks later, I'm like, should I call? Da, da, da. Anyway, long story short, she tells me she loves it. She shared it with CBS Studios. They loved it. And next thing you know, we're, getting this deal with CBS, and we're pitching it to the network, and it gets bought, and Elaine gets hired to write the script, and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm telling this whole story to really just highlight the part that I was freaking out and crying. It was messy. It was ugly. There was no confidence. It didn't look good. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go pitch this story. I'm going to be a producer. No. Oh, my God, I'm so scared. Like all these things. But nonetheless, I went ahead and I did it.
Yeah.
And I was so scared. And there was a good amount of success. It didn't get picked up for pilot in that pilot season. It was like 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. But to even just get that far and to get these like deals with CBS, and it was just like so cool. I didn't think I would ever get that far because I didn't feel confident in myself. Yeah. But I won. Yeah, I won that day, in those days where I said each time I kept showing up, hi, Jenny, did you get the script? Just putting myself out there, crying, and then getting my shit together.
Yeah, girl.
And so I share that story to say, so many people out there might be scared to do something. They might have a goal or dream in mind, and they might be scared, but they could do it.
Yes.
And they don't have to do it so beautifully and so like polished. No. It can be so fucking messy all the way through.
Right. You're throwing shit. Right. And what's so cool about that too is that you were already well established.
Yes. You would think that I would be so like, right?
Right. Like, oh, got this.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
Yeah. No.
No, and that's even more important because, it's like, look, we're always leveling, or we want to be leveling up in life. Yes, and every new level is going to demand a new stretch from you, a new, sense of courage and, fortitude. Yes. So it's, you're stepping into the unknown, and that's always scary.
Yeah.
Right?
It is. And, I would love for people to buy this book because I tell other stories just like that. And I do think that they are helpful.
There's a story, and there's so many stories, like the DoorDash story. Like but to connect to what you were just saying, though, the part where you land the first, the soap opera, but it wasn't the role.
Yeah.
And how you changed the role.
I changed it. Yeah.
So you're telling me this story right now. And I'm like, but there she goes again. Like when you're telling Norm, no, it's okay. Like this, I drew that connection to that story where, again, this is a fighter in you, and you do it in such, it's just so impressive because it's you where many people would either not go forward or submit to the like you listen to your authentic self. This is where I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
You know, like even in the story in the book, you know, where you're like, well, okay, great, I'm going to take this role, but I'm going to do it a little different. And then it ends up being even better and they appreciate it even more. And then you telling your manager, like going back to this story, what you just said, you know, you could have submitted or you could have played the part in either or, but that part wasn't what your authentic self was saying to do. And that's so important. Authenticity, first of all, is something that I have loved. Like, it's just palpable. Like, you're the real thing. But I'd love for you, and I know I jumped in and I interrupted you. Sorry, but I was so excited. I'd love for you to speak about the importance of listening to your authentic self.
Sure.
Because I feel like you've been doing that and you continue to do that.
Yes. Yeah, it's I'm not so conscious of it when I'm doing it. It's just, I think ultimately there's a part of me, the wiser part of me, who wants to take care of me. And I think everybody has it. It's just you have to cultivate that voice. You have to allow it to come through. I love to journal. That's one of the ways that I do it. But ultimately I want what's best for me. Like I want to be successful. I want to get ahead. I want to achieve, and not to achieve, but to win, to get for me and to get for my family. Like, you know, booking Jane the Virgin was a huge win for me and it changed my life in such a wonderful way. And that was me fighting for me. That was me stepping up to the plate and saying, no, I don't see a lot of me on TV and film, but I'm going to step up to this plate and I'm going to swing and let's see what happens. And I tell that story too. That's a great story. I think people, whoever are Jane the Virgin fans, will love hearing the story about how I landed Jane the Virgin.
Yes.
So it's a very good story.
I've been journaling my entire life, and it's helped me to develop the most empowered, loving, and trusted relationship with myself. Journaling is a powerful tool that helps you to gain more self-love and self-confidence. It can help you get unstuck when you need clarity the most, and it helps you to powerfully move through any and all of your life challenges. It's a pathway to manifesting your biggest desires in life while creating an unbreakable relationship with your authentic self. I created Youre the Path, a guided and illustrated journal to help you gain all of this in your own life. In this 7x10 mystical journal, you get a personal introduction and final thoughts message from me, 7 guided and illustrated sections with lined pages and 5 thought-provoking journal prompts, 7 empowering quotes from me. You get 1 freestyle creative section full of blank pages for drawing and sketching, and you get the beautiful artwork designed by talented artist Emerald Patchett. There are 120 pages of pure possibilities waiting for you in this journal. Youre the Path was born to help you create, discover, and illuminate the path that is you.
It's such a good story. And I think, you know, when you say I'm not really aware of it, just to the authentic self, I teasing that out a little bit more, I think in the end, what I love so much is that you stay loyal to this voice, your soul, your spirit, your heart, your authentic self. I mean, it's all, I kind of call it one thing, your highest self. And would you say that actually, like, if you can kind of look back now, would you say that that's actually really helped you to cultivate true self-confidence?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, each time I've stepped up to the plate and, and took care of myself in spite of my fears, I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, here I am. I actually won.
Yeah.
Isn't this awesome? Then I have amnesia. My guy will tell me, you just did this incredible thing. What's going on over here? And I know.
It is so, I get that, because even just listening to our first talk, it's like there's so many incredible wins and stretches and like these big stories and pinnacle moments, but every time it's as if you forgot that
and this is why I'm going to tell you why, and this is why therapy is so valuable. is because of the programming that we all get. So the programming that I got when I was a kid, and it wasn't just watching TV and film.
Right.
The programming that I got was that my voice is not valuable. I am not valuable. I will not be protected in some ways. I wasn't protected in other ways. And, you know, just, I guess it was more like no voice. I didn't have a right to speak up for myself. And I wasn't valuable enough to protect. And then the other thing was that I wasn't smart. That I wasn't intelligent. These are the messages that I got growing up in my childhood, different experiences, family, whatnot, situations. And that's still running in the background.
Yeah.
I don't think it will ever stop, and it's terrible, but at least I know it's there. Because like so many people will go through their life, you know, not knowing why they feel stupid or anything. They have no idea what is running this ship. And the more aware you become, the better you can handle it, and the better your life will be. Like you'll be able to do things that it's like removing hurdles, right? You remove
100%.
hurdles. Sometimes the hurdles pop back up. I know I keep doing this, but it's true. I just have to run that home, is that it's not, there's no panacea.
Right.
There's no answer that is going to solve all of your problems. Always, that's life. You're just going to have to keep dealing with the challenges.
Yeah.
And therapy is one of the best things to do, though. And I truly believe that my life is so beautiful the way it is, and all the beautiful people I have in my life is because of the work that I've done on myself.
Yeah, well, I think I totally see the value in that, because I think, first of all, this is a very real thing that we are subconscious. We get programs. Like we come out of the womb and we're kind of empty, right? I mean, we have a soul, so we're not fully empty, but, you know, neuroplasticity is baby. Like we're just a sponge. We're picking up and we're picking up and we're picking up. And what's crazy is that there's these scripts that, like you just said, like, people are not even awake to knowing that those scripts are actually shaping your reality, because they're informing you about who you are.
Yeah.
Right. Even though it's not the truth. It's just kind of what's been installed.
Right. And these are the voices. These are not your voices. These are the voices of people who said that to you in one way or another, either through action or through deed. Well, that's the same thing. Action and deed, they're the same thing, just so you know. Through action and word.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They have that. So those are really the voices. It's not you.
Right.
You think it's you telling yourself. It's those voices.
So therapy, and then journaling, which I do want to talk about, because you know that's so close to my heart. And I'm always talking about the power of journaling. And I love that you journal and it's so dear to you, and that it's been so supportive to you. So these, you know, modalities of self-work have been, would you say, some of the most supportive to help you wake up to those programs and other things?
Yeah, so I'll touch on this subject lightly because I'm conscious of people in my life. But in my marriage, there were certain things that were happening, cyclical kind of things that I was unaware of, that were not healthy. And because I journaled over the years, on and off, I wasn't like a diehard every single day, you know. I wasn't that disciplined, but there were times whenever I was really, really struggling, I would sit down and journal because I needed to get it out. I didn't want to hold it in. And so, several years into my marriage, I felt like I was having deja vu in a sense, or a Groundhog Day. And I'm like, wait, how am I here? How are we here again? How am I here again? I gotta go back and I look at my journals over the years, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the same thing. And then I'm in the same place. And then I'm in the same place. And then I'm in the same place. And I go, 10 years have gone by and I haven't solved this problem. Like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And that was so helpful for me I ultimately decided to get a divorce, which I won't go into too much, but I ultimately decided to get a divorce. So that was useful in that way to help me become aware of my own behavior, my own patterns, right?
Totally.
But then on top of that, I decided to go on a 5-day silent retreat to Kripalu, this like spiritual place up in the Berkshire Mountains in Massachusetts. And I took a course called proprioceptive journaling or proprioceptive writing, and a yoga course over the 5 days. And in that I learned these tools on a sort of a certain approach to journaling, not just like a free write. It was like a combination of free write with a whole bunch of other things. And I used that to help me get through the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, which was getting a divorce. It was the most painful thing that I have ever done. It felt like I had been a drug addict and I was, weaning off. I had this psychological and emotional pain. And so what I did was every day I leaned on that goddamn journal and that way of journaling. And I was just like writing it out and going through the steps. And it was so helpful, so cathartic for me that I may write a book based on that experience and include my journaling, because I feel like if people see how I was thinking and what I was writing and how I was finding insight into my own mind through my own writing, I was talking to myself. I was almost being my own therapist through this journaling. It was so powerful, and it really helped me to get through the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, which was getting a divorce.
Oh, that's so powerful. And I love, you just continue. I love how you just continue to be there for yourself. I don't know if you're conscious of it or was conscious of that's exactly what you're doing in those moments, but truly, like, you just keep showing up for yourself. You keep fighting for yourself. And that really leads me to want to ask you about self-love. Like, what would Andrea say about self-love? Just go.
Self-love.
Yeah.
Gosh. Well, I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
I catch myself, I beat myself up on things when I feel like if something went wrong, I a lot of times blame myself. But what self-love looks like for me is, and I hate to beat this,
Go, girl.
but is therapy.
Yeah.
Self-love for me is going to the gym.
Yeah.
Self-love for me is eating well. Self-love for me is journaling. Self-love is allowing a good man into my sphere, a man who treats me really, really well and loves on me like nobody's business. Like I've never been loved in my life. Self-love is doing the scary things that I know will help me ultimately in the end.
Yeah.
And self-love is just catching myself when I'm beating myself up and then reaching for help.
Yeah.
So recently I was having a lot of insecurity around the marketing of this book.
It's like
this book
I think it's a common thing, by the way, just so you know. But that's
really?
I
know, I've heard. I talked to Lisa. She told me about it. But I was dealing with insecurity around the book, and I had a freak out last week about it. And what did I do? I was in my car and I was like crying. I'm like, okay, I'm going to reach out to Karen, who's my therapist. And I'm like, Karen, do you have any sessions available today? Or tomorrow, but preferably today. And then the next thing was I was getting very overwhelmed by there's so much that I have to do to push this book. So buy the book, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Buy the book.
Buy the book.
So there was so much, I was getting very overwhelmed, and then I have children, so I'm still taking care of them. And there's just so much going on that I got so overwhelmed. So I reached out to Karen, my therapist, and then I reached out to a friend who's helped me in the past, with certain things. And I go, can you please help me, assist me with a whole bunch of stuff that I cannot get to right now, but is drowning me. Yeah. And so what I did in that moment, that was self-love.
Yes, girl.
I reached out for help.
Not easy to do?
No, not easy to do.
Yeah. I'm all speaking to myself. Not easy to do.
No, it's not. No, it is not easy to do. Because, we are, I always feel like, I have to do everything. I have to market this book, even though I have a publishing company with a publicist in it, and I have my own management team. And I have to, And I was like, no, Andrea, you have a freaking team. You got to lean on your team and push them and light a little fire under their asses sometimes.
Your eyes.
Oh my God.
The look in your eyes, you went Bronx.
I went Bronx. That was so Bronx. And that's why the title of this, Wisdom from the Boogie Down Bronx.
Okay.
Because growing up in the Bronx was challenging. You know, it was, and I was a softie when I was growing up. I was not a fighter. I had to learn how to be a fighter. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that adversity because it made me strong. It made me tenacious, hungry, motivated, and able to stick into hard things for the long haul, including a career such as acting, which is such a challenging career. You know, you're one day you're hot, one day you're not. So you're working, you're not working, you don't know when your money's coming in, all of a sudden it's all great, and then you can't handle anything. And it's just like, it's a lot. And so growing up in the Bronx and all of the challenges of my otherness helped me to be strong. And I'm proud of that.
I'm proud of it too. And you do such an incredible job in the book of, you know, I feel your delicate voice and nature through your journey. But then the fighter just keeps like getting in there and getting in there. And then and then you literally like, you had to go Bronx. Like, I mean, several times throughout the book, but that just got louder and louder. Well, and this is something that I love about you too. That's dialed in. That's who you are.
Yes.
And when you got to pull that switch, like it is ready to go.
Yes, it is.
But you are so, I'm like, honestly, and you know, my audience knows like there's no bullshit over here, but you were the beautiful, soft, just very feminine, and just, I don't want to use the word delicate, but I'm using it in the sense of like, yeah, it's just like a rose. Like, this is really who you are at the same time of being a fierce, got the Bronx winded up, ready to fucking go away any moment, you know, fighter. And I think that's really beautiful and special too, because what you don't, you as in anybody, what you don't want is that for the hard to make you so hard that you close and you get rigid. That's not you.
Right.
Look at you. You're just so open and vulnerable and tender and compassionate. And that's powerful to me.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't know what it is about me, but I just like to connect with people. Anyone.
Yeah.
You know, who comes across my sphere. When I see people not treating other people well, it gets me. I don't like doing that. I don't believe that that's possible. I think you can still draw boundaries without having to be a BI, you know, whatever. But sometimes you have to be.
Sometimes
It's such a great tool to whip out because people don't expect it of you. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh.
Well, your mother.
Yes, my mother.
Fucking your mom and my mom. I swear to God, they'd be friends. And like,
oh, really?
Well, yeah. Can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah.
In the 8th grade, my school, they wanted to, so what they did, they said, well, they wanted to hold me back. And not because I'm not, I mean, you know, I'm a geek. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a geek. It's not the learning. It's just the way school is set up. Anyways, and my mom was like, well, hell no. I hope I'm remembering this part of the story right. What I do remember for sure is that they didn't want me to walk in graduation. So I think the deal, if I'm remembering, it was a long time ago, people, 45 now. But I wasn't going to be held back. I was going to go through, and I did. But I couldn't walk. But my mom was like, you know what? We're going to get you ready. She did my hair, hairstylist, like, makeup, got the dress, like, fine, you're not going to be able to walk, but you're not going to miss out on, you know, the kind of big moment. And it's like your mom, you know, my mom just showing up for me and validating me. And there's so many moments that I love in your book, like the Jordache, like that really got me.
Right, did it?
It did. Because again, it's like, I think because I feel so much of in my own life, you know, it's like, damn, mom came through. And I know the value of those Jordache jeans. Like I remember, you know, but there is another, you know, part, especially when, you know, your mom is like, look, like there's going to be moments where, no, you got to fight back, like legit fight back.
Like literally.
Yes, like, literally.
And it's come in handy, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to fight,
no, it's
argue,
not about violence.
and I don't like to physically fight either. But there's a part of me that has no problem doing what I got to do if I'm put in a situation.
boundaries.
Hells no.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
And
no,
now you
no.
have kids, and that's an important statement to carry on to them as well.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and you know this from doing jujitsu, but it's interesting, you know, those who really have strong boundaries built within them and know that at any moment, if need be, they will enforce the boundary.
Yeah.
I feel like these, you know, individuals like yourself, like this is, you're the most calm and tranquil and peaceful because you know you got it inside.
Yeah.
So you don't have to walk around and like huff and puff and prove or
put
like
on a show. It's not
No.
necessary. Yeah.
no.
It's not
Yeah.
necessary.
But boundaries, I think, is such a statement of self-love. Is
Absolutely. Absolutely.
want to ask you, now that the book has been written and you know you've gone through the book, is there anything that you would put in the book, you would add to the book, not that there needs to be, but just in kind of reflection mode, like, or any story?
Well, there was another story with my boyfriend Marco that I around the Pitbull story, but there was another story in there, and I didn't put it in because it was like pick one or the other.
Yeah.
That I literally got into a physical fight with him because he was sicking his dog on me, the Pitbull. This is another Pitbull story.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're so tough. I had to convince him to get the dog away from me because I was scared of that dog. And I'm like, oh, you're so tough. You got to put your woman in her place with your dog. Like, right? Like, I was only 16, granted.
That's amazing.
16 years old.
That's a powerful instinct.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then he goes, I'll put the dog away. And I'm like, yeah, you put the dog away. So then he puts the dog away. And I'm like, oh, fuck, he put the dog away. No, what am I going to do? And he comes up to me and he starts poking me in my head. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? And I was sitting on the sofa and he was standing in front of me. And something in me just took over and I just went, I attacked him. And we got into a fight. We were like, it was like a cartoon with the feet and the smoke and everything was happening. We were a ball on the floor. And he had to stop me. Like, I was so angry. Like, it wasn't just the angry with him. It was plenty. But all the stuff I had seen in my childhood just came out in that moment. And he had to pull a knife on me to stop me.
Yeah.
So it was that moment and the Pitbull moment that made me go, Andrea, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Is this how you want to live the rest of your life?
Mm.
And so after that, I, and I talk about it in the book, but I left and all that. And I changed my life around and I've never attracted a man like that ever again.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I was in college, I had a boyfriend and then we dated for a year and then I broke up with him. And it was pretty quick soon that we had just broken up and he saw me talking to another guy and he got really jealous. And he came up to me after the guy left and he sort of cornered me. He was like, why are you talking to him? Like, and I'm like, what do you mean, why am I talking to him? And he goes, yeah, like, and I'm like, I'm not your girlfriend. I don't need to answer to you. And he goes, and I said, listen, you need to get away from me. And I tried to walk away. And he kept getting in front of me. And I said, you know what? If you don't move, I'm going to punch you. I'm going to punch you in your fucking face.
I love it.
I said, you better move. I'm warning you now. And he wouldn't move. And I went, bam.
Good for you.
Right, bleeding. He was like, and I'm like, I told you I was going to hit you. God damn it. You should listen to me when I say these things. So it's another story. I didn't need to go into all this fighting because my life is not like that.
No, I know. Don't. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
That was then. This is now. I don't do that anymore.
No. Come on. Like you're in the there's a reality to an environment and a situation. It doesn't make you who you are in that sense of like, oh, now you're some. But here's the most important piece that I take away from it. You have to feel worthy to fight for yourself.
Yes.
And that there's a crisis in worthiness.
Yeah, it's so true.
Can you talk about worth? Because I mean, I feel like that's, built into the premise of your book. It's like, you're just saying the whole time, even if you're not conscious of it, like, I'm worthy of this next battle.
Well,
Yeah.
There is an intention in the book with through my stories to show to demonstrate how one can choose themselves.
Yeah.
And how one can value themselves and find their worth.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe they don't feel worthy at a certain point, but then they can find that worth.
Yeah.
Everyone inherently is worthy of all good things. Every human being on this earth, even people who aren't doing bad things, they are worthy of good things in their life. They're worthy of love. They're worthy of being seen and heard. All of that. And so it's up to us to be responsible for our own programming, the program that's happened to us, and to change it and to go forward in spite of all of that, and to make our lives better.
Yeah.
To find our own worth, because we can't, loving yourself is an inside job. You can't be waiting for someone else to come and approve you or validate you. And this is another thing that I do mention in the book, and I really want to share, is that I thought being a successful actress or being on TV would make me feel good about myself. That would make me love myself. That if people who picked me to be on their TV show, and then I'm like famous and I'm a celebrity and all this other and all these fans and whatnot, that then I would finally feel good about myself. And that is just not the case. And it's a great lesson to learn, because I'm responsible. And so then I'm not sitting there like a victim, just waiting for somebody to love me and waiting to be taken care of and waiting. No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take care of myself. And then what ends up happening, you attract people who want to do the same to you. They want to love on you. They want to listen to you. They want to see you. They want to support you, like you supporting me with my book.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Easy. Yeah.
So there is an intention, and I think the readers will get a lot out of the stories, and they'll see themselves and they'll see their own potential and hopefully be inspired.
I love how you say hopefully. I'm validating you tremendously, because I know this book will you if you don't feel some kind of fire in your heart through your stories, then I don't know. I think you're asleep.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I feel the truth in every part of your book and every part of the stories that you share. And, you know, and it's also very funny. And I love that about you. You're so funny. And I think the humor is also great too, because again, it like keeps this lightheartedness, even when you're like in the trenches, like dealing with, you know, the punches of life, you know. But I do think that, you know, it's such an important, it's a beautiful book. I mean, I love you. I love everything that you are and that you represent. I think it's so important, your voice, because there are so many people who hold themselves back in life, who feel like it's not possible for them. They're not worthy. They're not good enough. And you're like, hey, throughout my whole journey, even to this day, I still have to battle the programming and the scripts, but I'm battling it and I continue to pursue.
Right.
And it's been working out.
It's been working out.
It's been working out, you know? So I'm so excited and proud of you. And I want to ask you, you know, it's funny. So in our first podcast, which was years ago, you know, you mentioned writing the book one day, and I feel like when we talk, we're casting spells. I always say like words cast spells.
Manifesting. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what are we stirring in the pot here? Because like, what's coming next? Because I know if you declare it here,
yes,
it's happening.
It's going to happen.
Exactly.
Well, there's a movie idea that I have, and it involves a Latina brown girl from the inner city and a horse.
Okay.
And I grew up in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up with horses.
Yeah.
When I got to college, I ended up joining the equestrian team with no experience.
Of course you did.
And they knew. They were like, we'll teach you. And I'm like, okay. And then I started working with horses. I literally had a part-time job. It was one of my most favorite jobs. I got paid $5 an hour to take care of 25 school horses.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I learned how to tackle and rein them and clean out their hooves and feed them and wash them. It was a great job. Then on top of that, I was learning how to ride equestrian horseback riding. And there was that part of me that pulls out and goes, huh, isn't this funny? A Latina from the inner city and a horse. I would never, ever put these two together. So there was a school horse named Willow that I loved. He was like he was like a former thoroughbred, but his foot had gone lame, so he couldn't run anymore, race anymore. He was so elegant and beautiful, and he looked different than the other horses, and I wanted to love on him. So I was extra special to him. I'd give him molasses and oatmeal and warm water at the end of the day, and then I got to ride him as a fringe benefit after work. And so one day I'm in the ring, and the other people in the ring are owners of their horses. So now these are people of privilege. They have enough money to be able to own a horse and take care of it. And so I'm riding Willow very gracefully. We're just like in flow. Willow and I are one, going around the ring. And these two women are sitting on their horses in the middle of the ring, and they're talking. And then they're looking back at me, keep looking back. And then finally I get by at one point, I slow down, and they go, Is that your horse? And I went, oh, no, that's not my horse. He's a school horse. And they go, oh, well, you ride him like he's yours. And I went, oh, thank you. Continue riding Willow. And that always stuck out to me in that moment. And so I ended up taking a course at UCLA for screenwriting. In the middle and one of my hiatuses for Jane. And I ended up learning a little bit about screenwriting, and I came up with an outline, but the outline's not good enough. I know it isn't. And I am battling with my own insecurity about trying to get it made. And I've made some attempts to share it with people, and it's kind of fizzled out. And so I haven't been able to get it somewhere, but I feel like it's something we haven't seen.
Yeah.
And I want to see this movie, and I don't know how to do it, but I think I'll figure it out.
Girl, I think you will too. If there's one thing that I know about you, and I think everybody who's paying attention to you and reads your book is like, that's what you do. You figure it out.
You figure it out.
You figure it out. And if this, I mean, it sounds very compelling to me. And I think like you're an artist.
Yeah.
And if it's beating in your heart and it's supposed to come out.
Well, here's the ultimate reason. The motivation for this book is to share stories to help inspire, right? And to see an option for themselves. For me, the motivation in that book is to say, how many horse films have we seen with white characters?
Yeah.
In the protagonists are white characters.
Yeah.
We haven't seen until recently Urban Cowboy, I think it was called, with Idris Elba, and it's based on a true story. And there's one other one, but we haven't seen a brown girl from the inner city,
right,
in this equestrian world. Why isn't that possible? And then I started doing research. I found there are women of color in the equestrian world, but you would never know it. But it is kind of elitist. You need some money. But here's another story. Oh my gosh. So I'm in this UCLA class, screenwriter teacher, white male, probably in his 60s. And we all had to come up with our film ideas. So I present this horse idea, and he goes, I don't think it's plausible. And I went, what do you mean it's not plausible? Well, it's a very elitist area of the world, and you need a lot of money. In fact, I have my daughter in equestrian, and it's very expensive. And I was like, okay. I said, well, this is actually based on my life. Like, these are actually real experiences that I've gone through.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then another student in class chimes in, have you ever heard of the all African-American polo team in inner city Philly? Well, no, I haven't. Yeah, 2020 did a special on them, and they won the interscholastic championship out of nowhere. They came out of freaking nowhere. They had only ridden for 3 years, and they won even when their captain got shot
Wow.
and killed, by a fire in the neighborhood.
Wow.
Then the sub-captain stepped in, and it was a female who became the captain and brought the team to championship. And so here's this guy going, oh, and so I felt so good when this student said this, and I went home and I was like, I'm gonna Google. Tell me that is not plausible. And I started finding all these examples, including one, the Compton Junior Posse, which is a non-for-profit organization in Los Angeles in the area of Compton. Now, Compton is almost as famous as the Bronx. Right. For not being such a great area.
Mm-hmm.
And so this African-American woman who grew up in the South, she moved to Los Angeles and she was a real estate agent. And in her realting, she found this farm in this big piece of land in Compton. Turned out that Compton used to be an agricultural area. She was like, there's a freaking farm here. And so she had the idea to buy it for herself and her kids. And so she could have horses because she grew up with horses. And then her friends, her daughter's kids' friends started bringing friends over and wanted to ride. And next thing you know, she's teaching these kids how to ride, but they have to work to ride. Amazing. 30 years later, it's inner city kids come in to learn how to ride horses in the middle of freaking LA.
That's amazing.
And it's a non-for-profit organization. So I brought that one up to him. When I came to class the next time, I'm going to tell me it's not plausible.
Well,
damn it.
Well, that's another thing I've learned about you. When anybody questions your ability, or if like it being possible for you, and that ding ding, the bell is rung and Andrea gets in and she's like, let's go.
Right. Now, if I could only do that to myself, because I'll listen to the one that tells me in my head that I can't do something. Right. But if somebody else, I'm like,
I know.
Did you just say I can't do it? You watch me. I'm going to do it.
That is so true.
I have to do that.
I know, right? Just
really
connect that. Just flip it around, Andrea. Oh my goodness. I love you. Thank you so much. I mean, this is, I feel, with us, it's always a to be continued. Because again, I know that there's so much more coming from you because you're just you are insatiably curious.
Yes.
And, about a lot of things, but I think especially about what's possible for you. And what I love and what we'll close on is that you share that with the world. You share the parts of you and you going through your journey and you getting in the ring of life, and fighting for yourself. And I think that's so important again. So I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful that you're here and that we get to highlight you and your beautiful epic book. Where do we send everybody? All the places to stay connected to you, buy the book, the whole thing.
Yes, at AndreaNavedo.com. You can find a whole bunch of links to buy the book there, but it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble,
anywhere you can get a book.
Anywhere you can get a book. But if you get a book, get a book, not if. Get a book.
Get the book.
Get the book and buy one or two more for friends who you think that can use some inspiration and motivation.
Yeah. And again, I'm just going to insert this really quick. It's a substance-rich, fast read. It's a fast read. And I think that's important because, the world we live in.
And what's cool, you can go and just pick a chapter and just, they're all standalone. The chapters are standalone. They have a takeaway and you can just open it up anywhere and just
take something from it.
Yeah. Get something out of that one chapter. So
I love it. All right, girl. To be continued.
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you for having me again.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review.